What's up guys? So the last time that we looked at the sleeper build, it looked something like this. And I said
the rest of it will be coming along pretty soon.
So then I did a whole lot of this. And then I decided it's about time that I ordered a power supply. But here we are, nearly 2 months later, and I can finally show you this. It still kind of looks like a pile of junk, only with a little bit more wiring going on. So let's talk you through a few of the things that I've actually managed to achieve with this so far. So the internals of the case have been fitted out with, apart from an old Micro ATX case, all been riveted together with a new metal base on the bottom, and we've managed to fit in 3 80mm fans that shouldn't interfere with anything else. So there's just enough room to squeeze everything else in. Now the front panel, as promised, has been hooked up with an RGB controller that works by dials at the front, and a fan control PWM controller that also works from the dial on the front. And we've got the original power LED and some extra buttons wired up here. The rest of the buttons and dials are just duds because, I mean, let's face it, that's pretty much as crowded as it needs to be already. We've got fairly limited room inside this case. So, what's next? Well, I still need to improve the airflow through the sides so that the fans can breathe, because while there is some ventilation space, it could do with a little bit more. So, well, nice to chop a nice big hole out of the side of there and there. And I better show you what sort of hardware is going to fit in here. So I'm going to be throwing into here the following items, starting with an ASRock B450M HDV motherboard. I know B550M is just about to launch, but I'll be honest with you, this is cheap as chips and it's still going to support Ryzen 4000 series if I should want to upgrade. But the other feature apart from that is the fact that it is just small enough to fit inside this case and about half the price of an ITX. So, I mean, the ITX would do exactly the same. We've got a Micro ATX ASRock B450. CPU, we're going to be using my old Ryzen 7 1700X. Since I've upgraded my main rig, I've got this floating spare for the moment. Probably going to be a little bit too powerful for the low profile cooler that I've also got to go in here, but I've got this spare for the minute and it'll work. Intel 660p SSD drive, 16GB of ADATA Gamix 3000 MHz, specifically chosen because it overclocks to 3700 MHz really easily by setting the timings yourself in the BIOS. So if you didn't know that already, this is actually a really good buy. MSI GTX 1650 low profile. As much as I wanted to try and squeeze in a full-size GPU into here, no matter which way I arranged the hardware, even if I used an ITX, there was just too small amount of room to actually make it work. So I've gone with the low profile GPU. And finally, the offending article that took nearly 2 months to turn up. Silverstone SFX modular power supply. Well, actually it's an SFXL, because the SFX power supply that I ordered in the first place also didn't arrive, so I managed to get this one. Just the only thing I've managed to get, actually. Right, so you can see by the look of the boxes, this is going to be a tight fit.
That's what she said!
Because of the way that I've managed to build this, everything has to go in here in a fairly specific order. So let's start fitting everything up and I can show you how it all fits. Okay, so that's the motherboard in. Next comes the power supply. The power supply sits just above the motherboard, giving just enough clearance in between that front 80mm fan to get it in there. Okay, now the PSU is in. It is the graphics card. That was nice and easy. And something I forgot to mention earlier, just in case I do want to expand storage on here later, a PCI 1X to NVMe expansion card. Obviously with this thing being PCIe 1X, you can't really utilise a full-on NVMe drive, but a M.2 SATA drive will do pretty good in here. Right, so that's the large majority of the hardware installed. Next up, it's a little bit of cabling. Unlike most of my builds, I won't be putting any sleeved cables in here because it'll just take up too much extra room by the time the sleeves are on. And last but not least, these old Molex connectors, because currently everything on my front panel that requires power is connected via a Molex. Now this is something that I'm probably going to address in the next video, getting all the cable management sorted, because I think I'm going to have to customise a fair few of these things to get it all to fit a little bit neater. But without the front panel, that is the large majority of the build. So we've got 80mm fans to draw air in and across, getting a little bit extra fresh air towards the GPU. And over here, the other two 80mm fans are exhaust fans for the CPU cooler, just giving this little Guild or Julid or whatever the hell you call it cooler a little bit of extra ventilation, just to help clear the heat out. And as you can see, it all just about fits inside. So that's a little update on the sleeper build. As you can see, it's practically almost all the way there. So join me in the next video for the finishing touches, which is going to be some cable management, a little bit of paint work, and just getting everything on that front panel hooked up and fully working. So until then, see you later.